Shira, Shir Hallelujah, Shir Hallelujah, Hava, Hava Shira, Shir Hallelujah.
Shalom. Our Torah portion this week is Matot. And in this portion, we find our ancestors in their 40th year of wandering in the desert. They have been wandering in the desert almost 40 years since the time that they left Egypt. And now they are encamped in the eastern region of that area that we call the land of Canaan, in what is now the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan. That is that area east of the Jordan River. Now you may recall what happened back in Shalach Lecha. Soon after the Israelites had come out of Egypt, we read in Sedra Shalach Lecha that Moses sent a representative, one representative from each of the 12 tribes to reconnoiter, to spy out the land, to see what was there. And when that group of 12 spies returned to Moses, 10 of them made all sorts of excuses why they could not conquer the land of Canaan, why they could not enter Eretz Yisrael. All but Caleb and Joshua said, we can't do this. They lacked faith in themselves. They lacked faith in God. And so because of those 10 spies who were cowardly, who lacked faith, that entire generation was destined to live out their lives in the wilderness. And only Caleb and Joshua from that generation were allowed to enter the land. So we turn to chapter 32 in the book of Numbers, in this week's Torah portion, and we read something that would have, and certainly did, upset Moses. Now, the area where the Israelites were living at that time, were encamped, not living, not settled, but encamped, was a fairly fertile area, very good for raising sheep. And so representatives from the tribes of Reuben and Gad come to Moses, and they say, we have no desire to enter into the promised land. We like it here just fine. We want to establish ourselves here. And Moses, can you imagine what his reaction must have been? And you can just read chapter 38 and you can see for yourself. He was furious. He said, this is sinful. How, after all we've been through, can you separate yourselves from your people to live here outside the land of Israel and not share in the danger and the struggle that certainly is going to be part of the conquest of the land? Well, the representatives from the tribes of Reuben and Gad said, well, listen, we will leave our children and our sheep and our wives in the land of Gilad. That was the area that they were in. And we will accompany our brothers to take the land of Canaan. We will be among the shock troops. We will be among the first to enter the land to help our people conquer the land. But we'll take no possession of the land ourselves. We will return, and we will only return to our holdings in Gilad after the other tribes have acquired their heritage, their land in Eretz Yisrael. Now, I want to point out something to you in the Hebrew that I find very interesting. Let's take a look at chapter 32, verse 16.  vayomru kidrot son nivne lemiknenu po ve'arim letapenu. Then they stepped up to him, and that would be the Reubenites and the Gadites, and said, we will build here sheepfolds for our flocks and towns for our children. We skip down to verse 24, and this is after the Reubenites and the Gadites had promised to fight alongside of the rest of the Israelites, and Moses replies to them in the following way: Banu lachem arim letapchem ugderot letzonachem. Build towns for your children and sheepfolds for your flocks, but do what you have promised. Rashi points out something rather interesting in what I just read. Notice what the Gadites and the Reubenites said to Moses. They said, we will build sheepfolds for our flocks and cities for our children. And then they have that negotiation in which they say that they promise that they're going to fight alongside their Israelite brothers to conquer the land. And then Moses finally agrees. But notice what Moses tells them. He reverses what they said. Remember, they said, we will build sheepfolds for our flocks and cities for our children. Moses says, go build cities for your children and sheepfolds for your flocks. He reverses the order. The medieval commentator Rashi notices this, and he says the following comment. He says, Asu ha'ikar ikar v'hatafel tafel. Make what is essential essential, and make what is secondary secondary. Isn't that interesting? Moses says the first thing you do is to build cities for your children, and then build sheepfolds for your flocks. Moses is a little concerned about this group of Jews who are going to live apart from the rest of the Jewish people outside the land of Israel. He wants to make sure that their priorities are right. When they say we're going to build sheepfolds for our flocks, and then they add cities for our children, Moses picks up on a hint that they may be more concerned with their economic situation than their values, the values that they should treasure as Jews. Now, certainly economics go into any major decision that we make as human beings or as Jews. Some of us choose to live in the diaspora, that is outside of Israel, for a number of reasons, including economic reasons. But what Moses is saying, if you make that decision, don't make economics the major reason for doing anything, especially making the choice of living outside of Israel. If you make some choices in your life based on economics, make sure that that is the secondary reason. Moses says, build cities for your children. Arim is the word for cities. I would replace that word with the word ir, city, with the word kahal, which means community. Build communities for your children. When Jews build communities, they are commanded to build Jewish communities, places to pray, synagogues, places to study Torah, places where Jewish values can be lived out in the fullest. He's saying, make what is essential essential, and what is secondary secondary. Our children are essential to us. Sometimes we want to provide our children with the best, quote, best of everything, with all of the shiny toys, with all of the opportunities to be involved in every single activity available to us in this society. Perhaps what Moses is saying, not only to the Reubenites and the Gadites, but to us, is to say, give your children what is essential. Jewish values. Give them your time. Teach them Jewish values. Teach them how to pray. Go to synagogue with them. Study Torah with them. And teach them how to be Jews, how to be good people. I hope you'll read this week's Torah portion and come to your own conclusions. Shabbat Shalom.
Broken piece, I am not afraid. I am not afraid. In the darkest hour, I will find my way on this narrow bridge, on this narrow